Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Thank you very, very much for being here. I am going to do a Canadian reading, and I'm going to do a Canadian reading on kind of the two areas that I right now kind of seem to be the biggest problem, or the people who are the biggest troublemakers. Maybe I'll say it that way. So the first one is Danielle Smith. She is the Premier of Alberta. Now, Alberta has sort of often been referred to as a Canadian Texas. Danielle Steele, I don't know why I keep calling her Steele Smith, Danielle Smith. I have, and others have referred to her as Donald Trump in heels. Okay, so she's definitely not my cup of tea. So I'm going to be taking a look at her. She has some stuff going on that's just it's like actually causing ripple effects right across the country. And I'm also going to look at Doug Ford, who is the Premier of Ontario. Now, he has recently got involved in some controversy having to do with protected land. I think he sort of decided an investor could have it, and then there was a big uproar, and I think the land has gone back to be under protected status. I have to tell you honestly, I'm not up to speed on what all happened there, but what I am going to do for both of these people is actually just look at their energy, where they are now, and where they're going. Okay. Also, um, if you're seeing this and you haven't seen the US regular video that came out, one came out this morning. So this is the second video being released today on Wednesday, the 14th of November. Tomorrow, on the 15th of November, there is going to be the regular video again on US politics. And after that, finally, the Soulprint Pet Parade is going to be released. So tomorrow morning, Alberta time, that video is going to be out there. Thank you very, very much for everybody, frankly, for both, for the people who've been waiting for a Canadian reading and the people who have been waiting for the pet parade. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. All righty. I'm going to start with Danielle Smith. If I keep calling her Danielle Steele, just ignore me. I don't know what that's about. But who knows why words pop into my head. All right, we're going to take a look at her. So just briefly, some of the things that she's doing. Her big thing is whatever the federal government says or does is wrong, and we need to push back against it. And it doesn't matter whether she is talking about, energy resources, the Canadian pension plan. The problem is that she's really often, always, um, putting out the wrong information. Her numbers aren't correct. The way she's approaching things, aren't correct. And so what she does is she just floods everything with misinformation. And, I have heard from people on the East Coast of Canada saying they are being impacted by the things that Danielle Smith is doing here in Alberta and the attitude she's putting out there. And so, she's just a force sign to be reckoned with. Now you have to understand that Alberta, is sort of referred to as the, Texas of the United States because we also are a major oil producer. Danielle Smith is Donald Trump with heels. Okay, that's just who and what she is, and so she also has that sort of aggressive. I can say what I want. If you quote what I've said and I don't like it, I'll tell you I didn't say it. Like that kind of sort of energy around her. So let's take a look at her first and see what we can see in terms of kind of where she's at and where she's going. The Canadian pension plan thing is she has decided that Albertans have contributed more to the Canadian pension plan than any other province, I think, in Canada, which makes absolutely no sense because we don't have massive numbers of people in Alberta, but be that as it may, and she's decided that Albertans want to pull out of the federal Canadian Pension Plan program. And she wants all the money that is entitled to Alberta, which I guess is somewhere over 50% of what's actually sitting in that existing plan right now. So not only would it bankrupt the federal government pension plan, or not bankrupt it, but like, really harm it. No one's, and she keeps telling Albertans it's going to be better for you. You're going to have more money. Her numbers aren't accurate, they're not correct, and so what she says is not correct. And honestly, I'm not convinced that the vast majority of Albertans are anywhere near on board with particularly this plan. She also has some twisted ideas about energy, right? She Alberta has a nice wind, okay? Like we have a huge amount of sunny days based, just sort of annually. And we have lovely breezes and winds here. And, her argument for sticking with, gas and oil is, well, oil is that, if there is a calm, cloudy day, you're not going to have any energy. Now, anybody with a thinking brain knows that doesn't make any sense because, the energy from solar panels and windmills is sort of stored and then it's dispersed. But, she just says stuff like that. And if you're not paying attention to what she says, kind of sounds like it might be possible, right? So that's where we're at with her. Sorry, I'm rambling. Let's take a look at Danielle Smith. Current trajectory, Danielle Smith, current trajectory, Danielle Smith, current trajectory, Danielle Smith. The problem is that she has a majority government here in Alberta, and a lot of Albertans are like, okay, as long as you are sticking it to Trudeau and the federal government, whatever you want to do is fine, just get down. Here we go. All right, she's starting off with the three of swords. So this has to do with the fact that she is going to be experiencing some disappointment in terms of successfully being able to accomplish the stuff she wants to accomplish. Her latest thing is she's dismantling the Alberta healthcare system. And listen, I'm not suggesting that the Alberta healthcare system is in amazing shape and doesn't need some fixing and some tweaking, but she just tends to like to rip everything down and then rebuild. And sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you have to do things in incremental steps. So part of what's happening is she is attacking some basic structures that Albertans/Canadians depend on, like a free healthcare system and a healthcare system that works and provides service to everybody. Going after the pension plan, not cool. Going after alternative energy resources, really not cool. Because the reality is if Alberta keeps pumping out all of this oil, we're going to have a really hard time meeting our objectives, anyways, so that's where we're at with her. So first of all, her heart's not in the right place. Okay, it's disingenuous. It is, for her, it is about the popularity. It is about she has some sort of right leaning ideas, and this I think is core to who she is and where she's at right now. But the way she's looking at things, sort of with that long-term plan, Three of Wands. So what's happened is she has started to implement a lot of the beginning steps of all of these areas that she's trying to go after. But that's kind of where it's at. Like what she's done is she made announcements, she's got people all wound up, she's got them upset, or she's got them really excited, depending on, I guess, what side of the scale you're on. And that's where she's at, like right now. She is going to continue to try to get her message out there. Um, this is about action she's taking, words she's speaking, and she is sitting in a throne of power, and she has a majority government here in Alberta. So it's going to be difficult to slow her down, um, because unless there are huge outcries, she sort of has a bit of a free kind of runway. Okay. Now, unfortunately, it looks like some of her rhetoric is simply going to be accepted as fact. People are not going to, look under it. I have long complained, loudly usually, about the fact that one of the things that conservative government, and frankly, the Republicans do this really well in the United States, do is they say things like, you're going to get more money. This is going to be better for you. But they don't tell you that in order to give you 20 cents here, they're going to charge you 50 cents here. Right. And so they're really good at putting out these messages that sound amazing. And people, generally speaking, don't dig. They read the headlines, they read the first couple of, paragraphs of the article, and that's kind of where it goes. And then they just simply say, well, that must be true. And they don't kind of take it a level down. Now, so some of these ideas of hers are going to kind of gain popularity and momentum, I am horrified and sorry to say. But when it comes right down to the nitty gritty, to the hard work, to actually, putting things into place, that's where she's going to run into trouble. All right. First of all, this whole pension plan thing, if she tries to push it, the federal government is going to tie her up in court until she's an old lady. Okay. So, some of this is just stuff she says because it's popular. It is red meat to her base. Where do you know that phrase from? Okay. So when it comes to implementing things, I think that she's going to have a problem. She's going to continue sort of to disregard the law, disregard norms, that kind of thing. But ultimately, um, it's not going to really work for her. She's not going to be able to accomplish the things that she wants to accomplish. That doesn't mean that she's not going to hurt Albertans in the process, particularly with this Alberta healthcare thing that she's got going on. But she's going to be like, literally, they're showing me a lasso. Okay. She's going to be lassoed before she can really, really break stuff. So where she's going, the trajectory that she's on is the Five of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords. And so this is telling me that when it comes right down to it, she's going to have a hard time getting the things that she wants accomplished done. But the danger is that she is going to be successful at getting the message out because she is very good at playing on people's emotions and getting people riled up. And so it's not it's not a complete failure and it's not a complete win. Where she is she's sort of selling people a bill of goods, and by and large people are accepting it or not. not responding to it with real negative aggression. I'll say it that, and I don't mean aggression like, fistfights in the street, but there's a lot of people, particularly older people in Alberta, who do not want to see the Canadian pension plan messed around with. They have paid into it for years, and they are danged if this little whippersnip is going to come along and screw up what they are sort of entitled to get back. Her story is, well, you're entitled to more, and I'm going to get you more. Okay, so where she's going right now is there's going to be trouble, there's going to be issues, but she's also to some degree going to be successful. She literally has. She has the Knight of Swords here. She has the Knight of Wands here. She's going to be able to get her message out there. And like I say, some of this stuff is impacting other parts of the country, right? When she starts talking about how alternative energies are not viable, which is insane, that's impacting other places in the country, who are then saying, well, why should we start looking at solar or wind power when she's telling us that if you have bad weather, it's just not going to work? Well, you know what? Canadians, like, we get snow, it gets cold. And so, saying, well, listen, if you have a cloudy day or a snowy day and the sun's not shining and the wind's not blowing, you're not going to have any any power. That's going to freak people out. Um, she is going to be slowed down. Okay, so that's kind of the good news. She's going to be slowed down in this sort of momentum that she's trying to gain. And I think a lot of the slowing down is going to come from the opposition, like the NDP opposition, from people who are going to go, no, that's like a step too far, back the hell up. And again, from the government, the federal government, because they're not going to put up with this kind of nonsense from her. She is, however, the golden child of the oil producers. That's where we're at right now with her. I think ultimately she's not going to have huge longevity. I do believe that she's going to um, get through her entire term as premier. And then honestly, it's just going to depend on if she screws up enough, people will vote her out by then. That's Canada for you. All right, let's take a look at Doug Ford. And Doug Ford is kind of an interesting fella. He comes from family. His brother, what was his brother's first name? Rob Ford was mayor of Toronto for a lot of years. And the Ford family sort of had a relatively good, kind of reputation, right? They were seen as, they owned like a printing company or something like that. And they were sort of seen as, everyday working people who were, in office, but they were for the little guy, that kind of energy. Whether that was accurate or not, that was kind of the story. Okay. But Doug Ford seems to have really kind of decided that there are some things that he's just going to do. He has lost a lot of his popularity within the province of Ontario, but like Alberta, it's sort of either people love him or hate him. Okay, so that's kind of the energy that is swirling around him right now. And I have to tell you, I'm not sure when the next election is coming for Ontario. Um, but let's take a look and see if he actually may win that election, shall we? Here we go. Current trajectory, Doug Ford. Current trajectory, Doug Ford. Current trajectory, Doug Ford. Okay. All right. right now, he remains, unfortunately, in a position of of power, and he is not as he's not in as much danger, I guess what I want to say, as his opponents would like him to be. He is still pretty firmly rooted in in his seat as a premier. He is being represented by the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Swords. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that. Um, and again, he, like Smith, has the ability to get people really wound up. And, sometimes people get really wound up for a good thing and sometimes for a not so good thing. But he still has his sort of toehold, if you will, of supporters. And that is going to prove a little bit of a challenge in terms of reining him in, right? But he has some bad fortune coming his way. All right. The Wheel of Fortune is not going to be kind to him. Um, he he is going to there's going to be trouble around him making decisions and rushing in. And he rushes in very often without thinking of the ramifications or without thinking of the blowback that he's going to get. Um, And so, because of that, he tends to get people very wound up and very annoyed with him. And that seems to be where this Wheel of Fortune is kind of going to turn away from him, if you will. Now, ultimately, I do see him leaving. And ultimately, I see him leaving because he's not going to end up having the support that he needs in order to win another election as premier. Um, and the people of Ontario want things to go back to something that just looks and feels, I guess, less corrupt. Now, hopefully, they're going to be able to manifest that. Um, Again, I don't know when the next election is, and I don't know if we even know at this point who would be, challenging him, whether he would be challenged by other, I think he's a conservative, or there will be a liberal or an NDP challenger that is able to beat him. But as he starts if they're telling me to use the word if he decides to go for another reelection, he's going to be going in blind without a lot of power. So ultimately, he's going to lose power and he is going to be replaced by something that is far more palatable to the people of Ontario. But again, you have this period of time where he is in power, and honestly, outrage is one of the few things that will slow him down. And honestly, I kind of wish the people of Alberta would remember that too. When it comes right down to it, politicians understand that really they get voted in on popularity, right? Who they appeal to, right? Who likes them. And if you have large groups of people who are absolutely outraged by your decisions, by your behaviors, by the things you want to do, that is where, even during the course of a term, they will tend to pull back because everybody's always about reelection, right? How do I get reelected? How do I get reelected? And when they start to see that they are getting more pushback than support, that is when you will see any politician pulling back and backing away and trying to move themselves into something that is a smoother water. And so that's the kind of behavior that you're going to end up seeing, particularly with both of these politicians. But ultimately, look, ultimately, they get the tower. Ultimately, they're going to come crashing down. The only hope is that they haven't damaged the foundation to the point where it cannot be shored up again. All right. Um, that's just kind of a crappy reading. I'm sorry to say that. But that's the energy. So right now, it's like a lot of energy of running amok and doing stuff and but ultimately both of them get reined in, both of them get gone. And for Canadians who just are done with this, understand that it is outrage. It is being part of the the system. It is about having a voice. It is about voting. It is about all the things that the Americans are learning they need to do in order to keep their politicians in check. We need to do the same thing up here. And so remember, it is outrage that is going to slow them down and push them back. And that's what I know about Canadian politics right now. Thanks for being here. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.